My name is Victoria Navarro Benavides, and I am a current graduate student at the University of Arizona. Vivir Mexico offered me an opportunity to explore my ancestral roots, to work with undergraduate students abroad, and most importantly, develop a sense of confidence in who I am and what I have to offer as a Chicana scholar. Exploring my ancestral roots meant finding pieces of who I am that I never knew existed. It also meant reinforcing the pride I have in being a Chicana of Mexican descent. In Mexico City, we visited many sacred places, like Tlatelolco, the Basilica de Santa Maria de Guadalupe, and Teotihuacan. Each place highlighted the significant contributions of indigenous communities to Mexico and the world at large, like technology, architecture, and culture. Tlatelolco also served as a more current example of resistance, as it housed a memorial for students killed in 1968 for their efforts to protest state-sanctioned police brutality and the repression of union rights. Our visit to Ciesas expanded Mexican history to include African descendants who are concentrated in places like Veracruz and La Costa Chica. The colonial part of Mexico emerged in our various visits to churches, museums, and even in the art of Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera. Artists like Rivera, Kahlo, and Siqueiros highlighted the violent yet influential role of colonialism in Mexican traditions and culture. These artists challenged Mexican history and herstory to value the contributions of all its diverse antepasados. In Puebla, I learned about the sacred connection between indigenous people of Neltican and the land via a prayer ceremony in honor of a local volcano. Museo Fuerte de Loreto showed us the history of Cinco de Mayo and highlighted the role of local indigenous people and insurgents in fighting off the control of the French in 1862. Guanajuato also served as a site for learning. This UNESCO World Heritage Site was filled with churches and government buildings done in Baroque and neoclassical styles that illustrated the colonial influences in Mexico. Each of these three states taught me to be mindful of the complex history of Mexico and to never forget that Mexican roots are multifaceted. As a Mexican American, I too am of multiple races, ethnicities, herstories, and histories, and above all else, I am from a legacy of people who have and continue to resist oppressive or colonial forces. The relationship between the U.S. and Mexico is complicated and contains many contradictions. In Mexico City, the U.S. Embassy's officials described their role in protecting and supporting U.S.-born citizens in Mexico. However, they confined the conversation to issues of legality and dehumanized the lives of undocumented people striving for a better life in the U.S. In Puebla, we had intimate conversations about the impact of immigration reform on the local people. By taking hikes, shadowing local workers, and engaging in workshops on migration, I interacted with many people directly impacted by the dehumanizing U.S. policies that target Mexican migrants. The people of Neltican brought to life, in the literal sense, the need for people on both sides of the U.S.-Mexican border to push for inclusive immigration reform that sees and values people as people. Another significant opportunity offered by Vivir Mexico was volunteering time, energy, and resources to local families. Both in Neotican and Guanajuato, we got to work with families in schools or camp. I had the privilege of advising undergraduates on creating and implementing their curriculum, and watching them try, sometimes fail, get back up, and try on new approaches to teaching. I learned a great deal about what it means to prepare students for being compassionate educators. They became collaborative and supportive of their peers. In Resplandor, many of them helped their peers conduct workshops when they were on a break. Witnessing this collaboration reminded me of the reason I got involved in Vivir Mexico. I saw this as an opportunity to explore and experience Mexico while teaching and learning from undergraduate students. As I continue to develop my own identity as a scholar and striving faculty member, I will build from my recent experience with Vivir Mexico. I foresee myself taking part in other professional opportunities that will help me improve my facilitation and teaching skills. I will enroll in more Mexican American Studies classes and build my knowledge of content not covered in our trip, such as LGBTQ policies, women's liberation efforts, and the history and current status of Afro and Asian descendants in Mexico. Lastly, an important motivator in joining Vivir Mexico was to make sense of my story as a third-generation Mexican American. Mexico did just that. It taught me who I was, where I come from, and provided me a source of inspiration. It taught me to be proud to be Chicana.